Hi, my name is Taylyn. I'm going to be doing the Draw My Life video, which is basically me drawing my life. I was born on February 19th, 2001. When I was brought into this world, my family consisted of my dad, my mom, me, and eventually my 3 dogs were added into the family: Snow, Dodger, and Mist. I think Mist is my favorite dog out of all my dogs. Mist is also funny and random because if you say Obama, she starts barking and going crazy. Couldn't tell you why, we never trained her to do that. When I was around 2 and 3 years old, I would usually hang out at my grandma's house. She always fed me really weird yogurt and always had weird soy milk in her fridge, but I still loved going over there. I think when I was 3 years old, I started my first private school. I started at a school called Mountain Shadows Montessori School. One of the things about Montessori schools is you get to teach yourself and decide what you want to learn about today. First grade me didn't care about math or English or reading. I only cared about drawing dogs. For a long time, I didn't make very many friends. I stayed close to the teachers I loved so much, Miss Logan. During the summer, I needed a babysitter, so Miss Logan ended up babysitting me, and she took me to cool places like Waterworld and Elitch Gardens. A lot of my weekends were dedicated to my cousins Ari and Dylan, my friend Chloe, and my friends Annie and Kaden. I think I was in 4th or 5th grade when I first picked up a camera. One of the first films I started making was with my cousin Ari. Up until about 4th grade, I thought I was a dog. Not in a weird way, I was just obsessed with dogs. Luckily, there was a girl in my neighborhood named Chloe who also had the same weird obsession. And I think I was eating dog food, and Chloe and I would sit in her laundry room and eat her actual dog's food. At school, I had 4 friends: Saunders, Teresa, Justin, and Frank. For some reason, I had this big obsession with this kid, Justin. I'm not really sure if I had a crush on him or if I just really admired him and wanted to be his friend, but he always pushed me away. With acting like a dog, I took that to school a lot, and a lot of the kids made fun of me for acting like a dog. No one really explained to me that there's a certain age where you should probably stop acting like a dog. My mom didn't say anything because she thought it was cute. Thanks, Mom. Everyone was terrified of Isabel, so everyone listened to Isabel and would join in when she started to bully me and call me names. Isabel's cousin Christian would do absolutely anything she said. So one day he decided to punch me in the face. That was the first time I got punched in the face by a guy. After that, I was absolutely terrified another guy was going to hit me, which ended up happening in 7th grade, but we'll get to that later. During this time, Ari and I got into a huge fight. I don't remember what it was about, but Ari and I stopped being friends for quite a few years. At that Montessori school, 6th grade is the last year you can attend that school. That school was so small, I was the only 6th grader, which was kind of weird. Going into 7th grade, I went to another school called Watershed. Unfortunately, Chloe and I got into a big fight during that year, and we stopped talking for 2 years. So not only did I lose Ari, I also lost Chloe, and I started going to a new school. I completely lost all contact with all of my friends from Mountain Shadows at the time too. So I was definitely looking for some friends during this time. At the school, some people came up to me and their names were Graham, Dee, and Brooke. Graham and I actually started dating. Graham was my first boyfriend. A few weeks in, my parents thought it would be a cool idea to have a party. So I made invitations and handed them out at school. A lot of the kids didn't really like me or know me at the time, and they thought I was really weird for trying to throw a party. Unfortunately, only one person showed up. That was Dee. Although I was really upset that literally no one showed up, I was really happy that Dee showed up. A few weeks in, Graham and I's relationship stopped working out. Turns out now, Graham is gay, which would explain all the anger and confusion Graham had. When Graham and I broke up, he ended up breaking my hand, which this also scared me, triggering me back to when Christian hit me. So that was my first relationship. The thing about private school is if one person does not like you, the school is small enough that the entire school does not like you, and unfortunately, one person did not like me. Unfortunately, this is when I really learned about depression and suicidal thoughts. was towards the end of the year during that time. I was about to go into 8th grade. My mom came up to me and told me that we were selling our house and we were moving. We didn't move states or anything. We honestly moved like 45 minutes down the road, but it was different. Not only did we move, I had absolutely no friends from my previous schools or my previous neighborhood. I was starting a completely new school. Not only was this a new school, it was my first public school ever, so that was terrifying. And I was just overall scared of everything at that point. I remember walking through the halls and thinking that I was not going to know anyone's name and know who anyone was because there were so many kids there. I remember not having any friends for the first couple of weeks, and I was absolutely terrified. And there were these girls in my choir class, and I came up to them one day and asked them if I could sit with them at lunch. Their names were Ariel, Rainy, and Destiny. I started hanging out with them a lot, and they started coming over to my house a lot. First semester in public school was not that bad. I had some friends, and I was getting through my classes. Unfortunately, in second semester was when shit really hit the fan. I started getting really dizzy, and we weren't understanding why, and it got to the point where it became a daily thing. And it was terrifying because I would be sitting in class, and it felt like I would just completely fall over. But I was sitting up normally. I guess it was my body trying to pass out, but I wasn't actually passing out, so I was just hallucinating and feeling my body passing out. Basically, I would be sitting in class, and all of a sudden, with no warnings at all, I would completely go blind and lose my hearing. Kids would make fun of me thinking I was just on drugs or tripping or faking it, but they didn't understand what was actually happening to me. And to be honest, I had no idea what was happening to me either. So for the second semester, for the first month, I would spend most of my time in the nurse's office trying to eat crackers and drink apple juice. We thought my blood sugar was too low or too high, and we had no idea what was happening. This got to the point where I started seeing walls move, hearing ringing in my ears. I started having crazy anxiety. I started having crazy depression. I started having really bad suicidal thoughts. I started blacking out a lot. I was constantly dizzy, trying to walk down a hallway and falling over. This got to the point where I stopped going to school because it was honestly too much for me, so I started staying home. It got to the point where I could not keep food down at all, and I couldn't even get up out of bed because I was so dizzy. So I was hauled off to different doctor's offices and different hospitals and children's hospitals. Luckily, one day we got sent to the right doctor, and he figured out what this is. POTS syndrome, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. The only downfall is this is kind of a new medical condition, and doctors don't really know how to fix it. They know that adding lots of salt to your diet can help this condition. This happened back in 8th grade, and I still deal with this today, unfortunately, but it has gotten better. After we figured out what happened, we got the right medicines and got me on the right diet, and I started getting better. I started going back to school. Of course, with how scared I was to step foot into the real world, I only went to 1 class a day, and then I went to 2 classes and 3 classes, and I started going back to all my classes. As scared as I was to go to school, I had one motivation, and that was to see my friend Josh. Josh wasn't like the other kids, that's why I liked him so much. Josh would say the craziest stuff. Josh would do the craziest things. He would throw pencils into the ceiling and pull out these random car radios out of his backpack. Josh was randomly in all of my classes, but I think he was in all of my classes because I needed someone like him to be in those classes to help motivate me go to those classes so I could pass. So thank you, Josh, for helping me. In that math class, there was a kid, Jacob, and he noticed I was struggling one day and he tried to help me. I thought that was really nice of him. And one day he decided to ask me to the 8th grade dance, and I said sure. And I was so excited because this was my first dance. And I showed up there, and he showed up there, and he was in a blue dress with water bottles in the boobs. It was my first dance, so I still danced with him, and I remember everyone making a giant circle around us and laughing at us and looking at us really weird. There's actually a video of that somewhere. Scary. And my mom ended up finding someone who did acupuncture, which was absolutely terrifying because at the time I hated needles. 4 years later, now I'm okay with needles. Still not a big fan of them, but you know. Since I didn't really have any friends at the time and I was super depressed and super sick and really did not know what to do, I was watching a lot of random YouTube videos. And I trailed back and came across Shane. I watched Shane a little bit when I was younger, but it's Shane, and young viewers probably don't understand a lot of the things he talks about. As it was 8th grade and I was a little bit older, I started understanding what he was talking about. And I fell in love with Shane. I related so much to Shane. The doctor said that my heart was healthy enough that I could do sports. So I wanted to do football. I love playing football, doing it. So I asked if I could do football, and my principal, Mr. Garcia, pulled me aside. I'll never forget that name. Garcia told me one thing and one thing only. Girls don't play football. So I decided to join cheerleading. Although I didn't really like cheerleading, I got the opportunity to meet someone I was friends with for quite a long time, Cheyenne. Cheyenne and I hung out outside of cheer and started hanging out more and instantly became best friends. Not too much happened in 9th grade. In my English class with Mr. Voth, I finally had another class with Josh, and I got the opportunity to meet my friend Vincent and my best friend now, Kenny. I wasn't really liking cheer, and ironically, I ended up tearing my ligament. The doctor said I had 2 choices. I could go to competition the next day and cheer, and I would have to have surgery, or I could rest and not have surgery. So I chose to rest and not have surgery, and the team absolutely hated me for that, and I ended up quitting, which turned out fine because I ended up joining boxing with Coach Scott, and I've loved it since the day I started. At the time, I was in a relationship with this guy, Andrew. Our relationship wasn't much. We were just mainly working on cars, which I was fine with because I love working on cars. And I ended up getting a friend request one day from a kid named Stephen Joseph. Turns out it was one of Andrew's online friends, so him and I started talking. During that time, I went to Ohio for my Aunt Tracy's wedding, and Andrew sent me a text saying that he did not want to be together anymore, which for some reason really upset me at the time. So Stephen and I ended up FaceTiming and talking about it, and for the next few weeks he helped me out, and I started to really like him for that. That was in September. In August, we ended up meeting in person. I flew out to Maryland to meet him, and it was one of the best experiences I ever had. When I flew back, I was crying my eyes out because I knew I wouldn't see him for a while, and I was right. It was 9 months before we saw each other again. Fortunately, when I started school again, November 3rd, my friend Josh ended up taking his life. At the memorial service, I reunited with Kenny and Vincent, and we met another friend named Vincent, which was kind of confusing because Vincent and Vincent were best friends. For a while, that was the gang. Kenny, Vincent, and I. After a little while, Vincent and Vincent kind of went off and did their own thing, and Kenny and I became better friends. During this time, a team and I were working on creating this program called Journey of Strength and Hope, an acronym for Josh. On the team was me, JJ, Rhea, Caleb, Coach Scott, Gunnar, Kate, and my dad, Trent. Throughout time, Kate and Gunnar went their separate ways, and Coach Scott took a step back. At that time, my only friends were Steven, Kenny, Caleb, and Cheyenne. Cheyenne and I went our own ways when she turned to drugs. And that's when I really turned to YouTube. For a few months, all I did was go to Josh, talk to Steven, hang out with friends, do YouTube stuff, and do boxing. Again, I flew out to Maryland, this time for prom. This was also the last time I saw Steven, and probably will be the last time I'll ever see Steven. August 2018, right when school got out, my friend Bryson took his life, which was really hard for me. Unfortunately, around that time, Steven broke up with me. I did not take that easy at all. My depression and anxiety was to the point where I did not feel safe, and I begged my parents to take me to a mental institution. For some reason, they refused to, so my mom ended up calling someone who wasn't around for a while, and that was Ari. Ari drove over here at 11 at night. I remember we just sat in my bed and talked. I still didn't really feel safe, but at least someone was in my room. At that point, I was super dizzy, depressed, and was having really bad suicidal thoughts. Throughout the summer and through 3 different kinds of therapies now, I started to film more because filming is my true passion. One of the short films I did this summer was Pромless. One of my highlights from the summer was going to the film fest with Miss Stray. One of the biggest things I turned to during this tough time is Shane. My new goal is now to meet Shane. And here we are, 12th grade, senior year. My current friends at the school is Caleb, Kenny, and Logan. Unfortunately, I had to start out 12th grade with another death. Josh's mom, Robin, ended up taking her life, and I wasn't really talking to people much or doing anything. I was just going to my classes, getting my work done, coming home, and sleeping the day away. But a really loud, smiley, bright face came into my life. There was this one kid in my class that always smiled and waved at me. something that doesn't really happen here at the high school. I started talking to him more. His name's Gavin, and the more I got to know Gavin, the more I felt healed with everything that happened recently. It's now October, it's been about 2 months, and I am so thankful for meeting Gavin and having Kenny in my life. So thank you, Gavin and Kenny, for being the amazing you. I ended up getting a job at Anderson Farms, and I scare the crap out of people. Through all this, my mom's been super supportive, reminding me how much she loves me, and so is my dad. On this journey, if I've learned anything, it's to hold my head high and my middle finger higher, and to go for what I love. For now, everything's getting better.